Since the genre-defining release of Romero's Night of the Living Dead, zombies have been deeply beloved among horror fans everywhere. Over time, these undead creatures have gained a reputation as a gimmick of sorts, becoming the subject of increasingly campy movies all throughout the early 2000s. They're essentially the go-to monster for a goofy thriller movie, and while there's nothing wrong with that, the trend of zombies as pure entertainment has decreased their presence as a deeper storytelling tool. What happens when we look beyond the novelty of the undead? You may be surprised at these creatures' hidden potential to bring attention to poignant social issues. When zombies aren't just a tactic for creepy jump scares and wild action sequences, what are they? I've always been pretty fascinated with zombies, but my interest was reignited by my recent viewing of Train to Busan, and not just because the ending was so emotionally devastating. I guess you could say it hit me like a train. I found the film's social commentary particularly effective, specifically because of the way that it paired its message about class division with its supernatural element, and the way that it depicts how characters' statuses inform their actions as the undead take over. Apocalypse media opens the door for weighty critiques of society because of its very nature. What better way to criticize society than by writing the story of its collapse? This is also a particular deviation from classic zombie movies that makes Train to Busan's narrative more effective. When we're introduced to the characters, the infection hasn't started yet. We already understand the dynamic of the characters' relationships and social standings well before the first zombie comes into play, and we get to experience the destruction of societal structures as they occur. Regardless of their social classes, the wealthier characters in The Safe Car will ultimately have no more protection from zombies than the poor, but the privileges that they're used to give them a false sense of security in the beginning of the film. It's a pretty terrifying concept, actually. They're so used to having things come easily to them that they don't even understand how much danger they're really in. It's no wonder that the zombie-human plotline has come to represent real-world power dynamics, considering that zombies are essentially people stripped of their humanity. In their original conception within Haitian folklore, zombies even served as slaves after assuming their undead forms. In many examples of socially conscious zombie media, placing the zombification virus in conjunction with a real societal problem changes the meaning of the virus itself, turning it into a metaphor for the real-world issue. In Train to Busan, for example, I'd posit being turned into a zombie represents an involvement in the institution of capitalism. One could argue that the zombies exclusively represent the working class, but the film's final act raises some questions about this. A choice within the script that feels very deliberate is that all of the working class people realize that they've been infected, generally as soon as it happens. Conversely, Yeon-suk, the wealthy businessman who serves as an antagonist in the film, doesn't realize he is infected until Sok-woo spells it out for him. With the supernatural and political aspects of the film in conversation, the deaths of the two businessmen in the film's conclusion represent how, regardless of social class, each character in the film is essentially a cog in the machine of capitalism. The poor understand this all too well, laboring intensely in the fight for survival. The rich, on the other hand, ignore the institution's corruption until the life they've spent exploiting others in the name of moving up the ladder comes back to, well, bite them. The usage of zombies to represent involvement in a corrupt system goes beyond Train to Busan. Romero's Dawn of the Dead uses zombies in a mall to drive home critiques of consumerism. The zombification in Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly DeVos results from an experimental weight loss bar, critiquing diet culture. Heck, even the lyrics to Zombie by the Cranberries use the monster as a means to protest religious violence in Ireland. Depending on the author's intentions and what the deeper meaning is in a particular story, there are different aspects of zombies that can be emphasized in order to make the undead more or less sympathetic. On the one hand, the creatures are quite literally brainless, and can therefore call out some forms of societal ignorance. On the other hand, the concept of being unwillingly infected lends itself to commentary on forms of dehumanization. Thinking about the most thought-provoking pieces of zombie media, the 28 Days Later saga, Romero's films, All of Us Are Dead, etc., they generally use both of these aspects in tandem, calling attention to the hive mind mentality that reinforces certain societal power structures. In the sea of turn-your-brain-off action movies, the most timeless zombie classics leave viewers to really consider the implications of being subhuman, And, in a more metaphorical sense, they force the audience to consider if they're really any better than the living dead. So yeah, turns out that zombies are a bit more than just chicken jockeys after all.
They want me to fight the chicken?
Social commentary!